So I'm back in Dover. I've not been for a few weeks, but when I was here, you know, during the months of April and May, spending time on the cliffs, and then of course many days out there mid-channel, trying to get people to wake up as to what was going on, and predicting that the numbers would go through the roof over the course of the summer. Well, let me tell you, it was a very lonely place here because nobody was interested. We were making these films, millions of you were watching them, engaging with them, wanting something to be done, and the rest of the media did not want to know. Well, goodness me, that has changed. They're not laughing anymore at what I'm doing. They're all covering it. It's wall to wall in the newspapers, on television and on radio. And just yesterday, Immigration Minister Chris Philp, yeah, I know you've never heard of him, but he is the Immigration Minister. He was in Paris yesterday, and he's come back saying that we're going to negotiate a new agreement. We're going to try and make the route unviable. I think what he's done is given away yet another £30 million to the French. And he even praised the French, saying they'd stopped 1,000 migrants on the beaches from coming across this year. But yeah, hang on, Minister, over 4,300 have arrived that we know of. So if 1 in 5 are being stopped on the French beaches, and if we've given them up to £100 million already, why on earth would another £30 million of taxpayers' money be given to the French? The fact is, they are not fully cooperating. They are happy to shift this problem onto us. And you know something? Not a single person that has come into this country illegally this year has been returned to France or anywhere else. So the crisis just grows and grows. And this from a government with Boris Johnson, who said last August, exactly a year ago, people who come across the channel illegally will be returned to France. Priti Patel, sounding tough, being photographed down here on Monday, out on one of the Border Force and police boats. Everything that's being said, please, please take my advice. Don't believe a single word of it. Nothing is going to change until we change the law. Nothing is going to change until we say to the European Union, we're leaving, we're not going to abide by the Dublin regulations, we can't possibly afford to wait until the 1st of January. Otherwise, we're going to be burdened with thousands more people. And you know, 48,000 people are currently being put up in hotels and, of course, in private houses all over the country at an estimated cost of £4 billion for that alone over the course of the next 10 years, whilst we genuinely have people who've served this country in the armed forces living rough on the streets. It does not work. Now, the big media narrative over the last few days is that everyone that comes are desperate people. They're all fleeing in fear of their lives. Well, I've no doubt there are some people that fit that category. But remember this when you're watching our biased broadcasters. Remember this one thing. 85% of those that come are young men between the ages of 18 and about 26. And amongst those are people who I'm afraid are bringing with them a radical ideology which is no good for this country, and the great danger of people being placed together in hotels in big groups is that we see radicalization. I've already this week had one report of somebody who was kicked out of one of these hotels for trying to radicalize the others. The trouble is, they remove him from that hotel and put him into another one. So there are issues here of cost, there are issues here of national security, but there's also an issue here of what is going on every single day in Dover is nothing less than a national humiliation. A country that voted to get back control of its borders in a referendum, nothing is happening. So yesterday, we have official figures for yesterday at the moment of 6 migrant boats being brought into Dover and 75 people. Those figures aren't right. We absolutely know from our sources there were 12 vessels brought in here yesterday and approximately 150. So maybe the Home Office will help us and update the figures. And this morning you can see it's pretty murky in the channel. You can just about make out the French coastline. Visibility is not great, so spotting dinghies this morning, not easy. As we speak, the lifeboat has been out, found some dinghies. Border Force are out now. I understand that there are 3 boatloads that have been picked up so far today. So in a very short while, we will see Border Force coming into the harbour, and we'll see people going up the ramp into that building there where they'll be processed. And you might see on the right-hand side the coaches. That will take them off to hotels all over the country. So we'll wait around for a few minutes and see what occurs next. Okay, we're back in the car. I last reported to you that 3 boats have been picked up so far this morning. We're now told that it's 11 boats, and some are out on the channel. They're being picked up. We've just got a report from St Margaret's, which is a little break in the White Cliffs of Dover, a little settlement down the bottom of the cliffs. We've just got a report that from shore, a rowing boat, a kayak, has been sighted that is coming from France. So we're now heading at reasonable speed to St Margaret's to see if we can spot a beach landing. It's possible that they'll get intercepted before they hit land, but that's where we're going now. Didn't work. We didn't find it. There's a kayak out there somewhere. My guess is it may have been picked up by a border force. There was a beach landing at Dungeness. 10 people in a dinghy hit the shore there about an hour ago. So we're now coming back into Dover Harbour, and we're going to go opposite the reception centre to try and get some idea of just how many people have come in today. At the moment, I would guess it must be 150, but it may be higher than that. We'll find out in a moment. There's talk of turning boats around a channel and all the rest of it. Actually, the real solution is to say that nobody who comes to Britain illegally via these means will be granted asylum. All right? You know, if you want to apply for asylum in our country, and we are, as a country, we've always been pretty open to this, but you've got to do it and be processed offshore. And until people know that coming via this route, they're not going to be allowed to stay, they will just keep on coming. So that's what happens. We've got the big border force vessel comes into the harbour. They then unload onto these smaller boats round. They go up the ramp, be processed in that building. The coaches, the immigration will process them, and then the coaches will take them off. And that's just the first load that has come off HMC Seeker, and we'll see that is going to be repeated over the next half hour, over and over again. Okay, so this is the ramp that they walk up into the reception centre. So you can see each migrant has got a border force official with them. The migrants are obviously wearing the life jackets that have been put on them, or they may have worn already. What's that? 1, 2, 3. They're stretching them out. And remember, every one of these has now set foot on British soil, which means they've hit the jackpot. They're not going to be returned. They will be able to stay, and they'll be in a 4-star hotel within 3 days. A bit slower with the rest. There's more coming. And you can see behind me the reception centre, you can see police cars, you can see ambulances, you can see coaches just in the background over there. And bear in mind, well, on top of that, we've got border force vessels out there, we've got lifeboats out there, we've got spotter planes out there, we've got drones up there. I have no idea what the daily cost of this, but it has got to be huge. Okay, so there we've got the rib, the border force rib. It's taken 1 load in already. It takes about 8 at a time, and it's now going back out to Seeker, which is moored in the outer harbour, and that will then bring the next 8 people in. And I don't know how many people are on Seeker, but I suspect it's quite a lot. We're certain of 11 vessels that have been picked up already. We're told a 12th has been spotted in the shipping lanes. What we don't know is whether they're ribs or kayaks or just how big it's going to be. We're still waiting for official figures from yesterday. As it is, some land on beaches, but most get picked up before. But can you describe something? I mean, if we go on the current rate, we're headed for 8, 9, 10,000 people this year. What would you call it?
It's not for me to say.
No, but that's what I always say to people. So here's the Dover lifeboat. And remember that these crews are voluntary crews. These crews, their pages go off 24 hours a day. They go out to sea to save lives. I can tell you that people working on these lifeboats do not give up their time and their effort and risk in certain weathers to be a taxi service which in many cases is what they've become. And I have supported the RNLI all my life. I've raised money for them, I've done all sorts of things for them. And you know, this is here for a reason. It's here to look after commercial vessels in trouble. It's here to look after people sailing who get into difficulty. And yet they're working hand in glove. They're working hand in glove with Border Force. Effectively, this wonderful institution that's been around for nearly 150 years has effectively here in Kent been turned into part of a taxi service for illegal immigrants. And that is bad and it's wrong. And I fear in these crews, and I've spoken to many of them, in these crews in Kent, give you an example, chap said to me his pager went off at 4:15 the other morning. He didn't go out because he knew what it was. Okay, here we got the next boatload coming in. So you can see the rib. They're towing in the rib. So they're bringing the dinghy in first. That'll get moored up. They then go back and get more people. And there's a yard at Whitfield, just up the road, with nearly 500 of those dinghies in. I don't know where the rest are. So that's the end of my day, but it's not the end of Border Force's day. They're still out there hunting, seeking, bringing in migrant boats. In fact, last night, the last one came in at 8:30. Interestingly, since the Immigration Minister, Chris Philp, was over in Paris yesterday, it would appear the French Navy are nowhere to be seen. There are no escorts today. And I think they're now able, if they want, it seems, just to launch from French beaches without much prospect of anybody stopping them. Don't know the final tally today. It's quite a lot of boats. Many of them may well be small kayaks. But the fact is, this is not going to stop. And when you think, this time last year, the Prime Minister said, we'll send them back to France. Priti Patel keeps talking tough. Chris Philp, the Immigration Minister, says, we're going to make the route unviable. Believe you me, none of this will change quickly unless we change legislation. And I think what is going on here on a daily basis is nothing less than a national humiliation.
We will make America great again.